joining من Saudi and Dubai. They will be participating inshallah, and we have two international speakers from Dubai who هيتكلموا after دكتورة سناء. Welcome to Sandoz Health Talks in partnership with Society ESPCN ودكتورة سناء, the president of the society. We'll start with دكتورة سناء. Please.
Thank you, Dr. Islam. كده مش شغال. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Islam, for your kind presentation. مساء الخير على حضراتكم جميعا, سواء الحضور اللي معانا أو الأساتذة والزملاء اللي أونلاين. النهارده الحقيقة عندنا إيفنت جميل جدا ومتميز, وهو تحت رعاية الجمعية العربية للتغذية الإكلينيكية, وشركة ساندوز تفضلت وعملت لنا سبورت علشان نتكلم على توبيك مهم جدا which is new and it is everywhere, people are speaking about it, and it is extremely crucial to our life and our health. And الحقيقة many topics will be discussed by many professors who are يعني الحقيقة highly specialized in this field, and we thank Sandoz and we thank the audience for their presence. وهنبتدي بأول المحاضرة بتاعتي اللي هنتكلم فيها ازاي ال early life exposure بتأثر على الميكروبيوتا development. So we start from the womb of the mother to the world, من اليوترس إلى الحياة. What happens to this organ? علشان before I start my presentation, there are three definitions you must be aware of. The first one is the microbiome, and then you have the microbiota and what is the difference between them, and lastly the probiotics. The microbiome, it is the collection of the genomes of the microorganisms which are mainly in all our environment, our own personal environment. You have 3.3 million genes of the gut microbiota, while at first the human genes are only 23,000 genes. So it is more than 10 times, and this leads to the fact that is this microbiome organ a parasite in our body, or are we the parasites living on this organ? The microbiota, it refers to the organism, the type, the species, whether it is a bacteria, it's a virus, it's a fungus, whatever. And these are the residents of the GIT. They inhabit also many other systems in your body. We have the microbiota for the skin, for the oropharynx, for the lung, for the genitourinary system. Every system in your body has its own microbiota. These microbiota are very specified by the fact that they are diverse in their collection and they are dynamics. They change all the time according to many things. They change according to what you feed them, and this is the key player in their life. The probiotics, this is what terminology which has been given to the microbiota which have come on the market, and these pro means for, biotics is life. We have the prebiotic before life, the probiotic for life, the postbiotics after life, which is results from the interaction with the symbiosis, which is mainly the joining together or the synergy between the pre and the probiotics. So these are the probiotics, but probiotics, they are very highly specific. They are species specific. Each species is referred to a certain system or organ, and each species has its own function. ليس ما اقدرش اطلق في العموم ان كل البروبايوتكس بيشتغلوا كل حاجه. كل حته لها البروبايوتكس بتاعتها to fulfill their function. To start the journey of the microbial colonization, this journey starts, كنا دايما بنقول it starts at birth and breastfeeding and infancy, especially the pitfalls, the era of the duration of the weaning, and then childhood. But nowadays came up on the surface very new things, and this is mainly what happens in utero. So, what happens in utero is that something very important. We have new emerging trends, some trends which are emerging and they are very new. They are controlling the pathway of the early programming of the microbiota. There are mainly three factors. I will only tackle one and three because they are updated and new. And the one in the middle, which is the normal vaginal delivery, has been tackled and spoken about many times. So, what is happening is that we are going to unveil what is new. سوف نزيل الستار عن ما هو جديد. Well, this sentence, I like it very much. It is very naive to think that the influence of the maternal microbiota will start only at birth. It starts far before birth. Everything which happens in the womb of the mother is reflected on her baby. So, this is a crucial part. What happens during pregnancy? ايه بالظبط اللي بيحصل inside the womb? What is happening there? Well, there is a role of the maternal microbiota on gestating the growing fetus inside. Now, at 2013 and 2014, the scientists have discovered that the fetus does not have his own microbiota. He doesn't have any microbiota still. So, any microbe mediated immune education which will happen in the fetus is due to the microbiota of the mother and not because he doesn't have a microbiota. So, during the pregnancy, the composition of the maternal gut microbiome is going to change depending on what the mother eats. The metabolism of all her body changes also due to the new situation, the hormonal changes, the physiological changes, the stress, and so on. And even the gut epithelium is going to become more permeable. And with the production of microbe specific antibodies, they are going to be transferred across the placenta to go to the fetus to support the immune education. So, what has happened really? This is what is new is known as the maternal fetal microbiota axis. This is the very new. زمان كنا عندنا دوجما اللي هي كانت كنا نوصم دايما الوم ان هو it is sterile. زي ما قلنا على البريست ميلك زمان ان هو it is sterile وبعدين لقينا ان في some of the DNA material of the probiotic. And then we shifted that there are really probiotics, and we have reached up to more than 100 species of probiotics. So the sterile womb is not anymore a sterile womb. It has changed. And there is a consensus now that the gut microbiota during pregnancy are very critical determinants of the offspring health because they start very, very early. And the placenta is the critical interface. هي اللي في المواجهة. هي البداية. This is it is usually there is an interface between the wall of the uterus and the placenta and through the blood circulation. So the interface between the mother and the growing fetus. We know that the placenta transports nutrients and removes the waste products, but now it has a very new function. It acts as a barrier to protect the fetus, and also through the transmission of the very specific antibodies, it plays a major critical role in the health of your coming child. It is also claimed that any adverse pregnancy results in is due mainly to some perturbation in the placental function or some disturbance in the placental function. And more and above, the placenta has its own microbiota. So the placenta allows the passage of the antibodies from the mother to the fetus and her gut microbiota through the gut translocation. And also, it has its own microbiota, which it will transfer to the fetus. What happens is that there is a maternal gut placental axis. We have the maternal gut placental axis, which is going to transfer everything to the placenta, and the placenta will pass it on its turn to the fetus. The maternal gut placental axis is mainly controlled by the maternal diet. So all mothers, especially pregnant females, they have to watch what they eat because this is the start of the defect. Usually during pregnancy the dietary habits changes. بتبقى عندها nausea, عندها vomiting, she likes to go for salty things, they like to go to sweet things, بيبقى عندهم taste changes, and this has an impact on the craving bacteria in the gut. If I use a good diet, a healthy diet, what will happen that the maternal diet is going to result in a good balance of the microbiota in the GIT of the mother and a good colonization of the healthy non-pathological microbiota, and accordingly, plus the passage of macro and micronutrients from the mother through the placenta to the fetus also will pass the good microbiome which have been established and resident there. On the other hand, if the mother's diet is an unhealthy diet, very rich in sugar, high saturated fats, all the preservatives and food additives, everything which is unhealthy, this will change the type of microbiota colonizing the gut, and accordingly, what will pass through the placenta to the fetus would be an altered microbiota. And this altered microbiota, which are going to pass, eventually are going to make an altered priming of the immunity of this fetus. يعني هتبتدي even priming of the immune system in a bad way because it is a bad microbiota. And so this will end up in the susceptibility to diseases. Now, if we go back to the history, in 1991, Alan Lucas, which is a professor in the UK, and he is very much interested in the nutrition. He worked a lot in the nutrition and the effect of diet on the brain especially. He realized that the overnutrition is going to give us an altered fuel. And this is going to result in deposition of fat, and there is a fetal adiposity also, plus the adiposity of the mother. The child becomes macrosomic, he is obese, he is hyperglycemic, and this will go on and turn. So the overnutrition ends in an unhealthy child who is overnourished or obese or has tendency to diabetes, and this is known as the fuel-mediated teratogenesis. There is teratogenicity due to the extra fluid which is there. In 1995, we have David Barker came with another theory. He said that the undernutrition of the pregnant mother is going to lead to a postnatal undernutrition and insulin resistance and small baby, and this small baby will have a fetal undernutrition and go on to be undernourished mother, and at the end you have undernutrition, and this is what we call the nutrient mediated teratogenesis. They have put this theory without knowing what does the diet do. They proposed this hypothesis, but who was the key player؟ مين الميجر بلاير اللي عمل اللخبطه دي وخلى الماتيرنال malnutrition تديني malnourished child undernourished والmaternal overnutrition gives you an overnourished or a child with. This is what we call the DOHAD, or the developmental origin theory of health and disease. And this is mainly through the fact that the maternal condition is going to affect the gut, and then it will affect the placenta, and it will affect the child, the baby. And if you are overnourished, the same occurs. This theory is now explained and revealed by the fact that whether it is undernutrition or overnutrition, there is an altered gut microbiome. يبقى who suffered from the bad nutrition؟ مين الأكتر حد اتأثر بالباد nutrition؟ The microbiota of the pregnant mother. Now, whether the diet is wrong, the environment and the pollution, or the mother has a metabolic disease or stress, whatever, which causes the change, alteration, change from the good, healthy, non-pathological microbiota to the unhealthy pathological microbiota. Now, maternal microbiota are very important because they shape also the vaginal and breast milk microbiota. So the maternal microbiota will affect every step in the life of this child. It will change the microbiota in the vagina, as well as it will change the microbiota in the breast milk. So this child is quite unlucky where he will have many altered microbiota through many passages, and accordingly the end result is that it's going to affect his immune and cognitive development as well as his physical growth. Now, these are the keynotes for the microbiota during pregnancy. Immune education of baby's immune system to tolerate even ده بيعمل لها education عشان تتحمل النورمال healthy microbiota. It starts, and it is something new for their gut. So it starts in the final weeks before birth. And the gestational microbiota بتعمل لي an immune imprint. يعني imprint يعني اديت له اسطمبة مش هتتغير. هيمشي يا اما في سكه الهيلث يا اما في سكه الديزيز. So one of the very important points all you can do is manipulating the microbiota of the pregnant mom, and this is going to modify the immune system of their offsprings and is going to alter their to protect from altering their health and the occurrence of disease outcome. Now, the second point I will speak about, we said that through the vaginal, this is very well known, and we have seen that the alteration of the gut microbiota will alter also the microbiota of the vagina. So we come to the breastfeeding. Now, الانتيرو-mammary pathway بنسميه the silk روت، طريق الحرير. عارفين طريق الحرير اللي كانوا الصينيين زمان يمشوا فيه عشان يجيبوا البضاعة بتاعتهم الحرير للشرق الأوسط؟ كانوا بيسموا هذا الطريق the silk route عشان بيجي منه الحرير. which is something very nice. So the gut breast mammary gland axis يبقى في axis تاني في axis between the placenta gut placenta sorry gut microbiota and the placenta, and the second axis would be the gut breast and mammary glands axis. What is eventually happening in this axis is that when you have the microbiota in the GIT of the mother, and these microbiota is going to affect the placenta. And as you see here, it is the gut lumen, how it is affected by the good microbiota. Some microbiota are translocated and they go through the lymphatic tissue or through the systemic circulation to the breast. Now, these microbiota will pass from the gut through the lymphatic or the blood, and they will go to the breast, to the mammary glands, and they stay there until they are produced in the milk. So the final microbial consortia of human milk, which you never knew about it. دايما كنا بنقول ان the microbiota of the breast milk, they come from the breast milk only. But this is not true. We have many sources for the microbiota in the breast milk. The first one is the microbiota of the milk itself, and you have more than 300 species. The second one, the translocated microbiota in the gut through the lymph or systemic to the breast milk, to the mammary glands that are also secreted in the breast milk. The third one is the microbiota from the skin when the child is suckling. The fourth one would be the oral cavity microbiota of the child. So all these together, they form the final consortia of microbiota in the human milk. And the more they are healthy, the more you have a healthy child. So if you want to balance the equation, now the pregnant and lactating mother nutrition is of utmost importance. It is crucial. It is crucial to the life of and the future health of your children, starting from the fetus in the womb until the adolescence and whatever. Of course, there are certain other factors in the environment which can impact it, but the basics have been put, and the, as you say, the foundation pillars are good. So whenever you have a default, you can always recuperate it, and you can always arrange this, what you have. But if you have very bad pillars or weak pillars, then it is very difficult to rearrange them or to go through the good pathway. So it is very important to have always the GIT of the mother, the microbiota in it, in a state of eubiosis. And by eubiosis, I mean in a state of equilibrium and in a state of health with the microbiota, the good non-pathological, taking the upper hand and going, the balance is always in favor of the good and not the bad one. هو ميزان between the good non-pathological and the pathological. So this balance, to have a state of eubiosis, you should always have the good at a higher level and the bad at a lower level. If it is reversed, then you will get what is known as the dysbiosis or the disturbance or the disequilibrium in the gut microbiota with all its consequences, whatever happens, inflammatory bowel disease, CNS and cognition affection, immune system affection, everything will go upside down and everything will be changed. So we have, my message for you all is to respect your gamete microbiome. You should respect it, and you should respect it from day one, because in utero it is responsible for growth development and لأنها بتديني energy homeostasis. And In the GIT, it helps the tolerance, and it boosts a very strong uh, GIT barrier, which can defend your GIT. It is also a key player for the early programming of the immune system and the overall health, whether now or later on. And it is in direct connection with the brain. We have the microbiota gut-brain axis, which directly sends messages through the vagus autonomic nervous system coming from the enteric nervous system in GIT directly to the brain and vice versa. It is a bi-directional connection between both of them, which that's why you should respect your gut microbiome. Now, my two key messages, final messages. The first one, you have windows of opportunity. You have two windows of opportunity. The first one in early life is that the main source of the intestinal fetal microbiota is the maternal gut. You should understand this very well. And the maternal commensal microbes with their products are transferred to the fetus through the placenta in utero. Even it can be transferred postnatal also. Then, through the time of pregnancy or gestation, the gut microbiota changes to allow the fetus to allow physiologically. So you should be tactful enough and you should take care of these microbiota during this very critical period. And what happens is that these microbiota, they provide an environmental cue which is going to fine tune. هي بتعمل fine tuning، يعني بتظبط أدق تظبيط وأعلى تظبيط على المother and the developing fetus. Now, the second message or the second window of opportunity would be through the breastfeeding. Breastfeeding microbiota are introduced to the gut of the infant, and they also colonize زي اللي جايين من الوم وزي اللي جايبين through the delivery of the vagina. Now, this is going to colonize. Whether they colonize transiently for a time or persistently, most probably it would be persistently until weaning, whether you will start the weaning right or wrong. But the breastfeeding shapes the gut microbiota in early life through, as we said, through the four components it is available, and the plus maternal milk factors that affect bacterial growth وميتابوليزم زي ال HMOs اللي بتسمعوا عليها اللي هي بتعتبر prebiotic زي secretory IgA antimicrobial factor, thus shaping the infant gut microbiota is going to influence the health. So from pregnancy to vaginal delivery to breastfeeding, should be the normal, best ever pathway to have a healthy child with lots of good health and not any disease. Now, my last slide is that the whole science is nothing more than a refinement of everyday thinking. And thank you very much. Thank you for the audience online. And it is my pleasure now to introduce Dr. Christos. He is the consultant of pediatric gastroenterology in El Galila Hospital in UAE to launch his talk about the pros and cons discussion, infant nutrition, therapeutics versus prevention. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sanaa. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Right. Okay. Thank you for the Santos for the